Welcome to Mission to Inspire, where we share life experiences in our careers, personal lives, society, culture, religion, finance, family, and much more. Meet your host, Shola Ajibade, as she takes you on a ride to fuel your inspiration.
Hi, Michelle. You're welcome onto our show today. It's great having you on. Thank you so much for accepting to be a guest.
Yeah.
Our the first part of this interview is going to be, can we know you better? So I'm going to ask you 5 questions.
Okay.
Now, you have to answer them truthfully, though.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay. So, first question. I know you've worked in the corporate world before as a surgeon, and now you are into podcast, entrepreneur, business, I suppose. So, do you prefer your corporate life or your life now as an entrepreneur?
Well, I've always been an entrepreneur, and
Okay.
so when I was working as a surgeon, I always owned my own practice, except for a stint of about 2 years, where I realized I was fundamentally unemployable, and that's when I took a break from my practice in like 2010 to 2012, and then in 2012 I reopened it, and I ended up becoming an employer of surgeons, and I grew my practice to 5 surgeons, including myself. So I've always been kind of an entrepreneur. I never really fit into the mold of corporate medicine or the whole corporate world.
Okay.
It's hard to be a surgeon without a hospital system, though. And so it's been 3 years I've been out of medicine. I've been in coaching, and I had started with menopause, and then I kind of moved toward more of a lifestyle design sort of thing. And I took my own advice and I started looking at how I wanted my life. And I'm actually getting ready to re-enter medicine, but more as a functional medicine, anti-aging, personalized health doctor. And I'm really excited about it.
Wow, great. That's exciting.
Yeah, I coached
Something
myself.
new, something good, something exciting to look forward to.
Yeah.
So let's answer the question then. You've always been an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Always an entrepreneur. We always be one. Okay, so next question. Podcast or radio?
Neither, actually. I appear on podcasts, and I had a podcast for 3 years, and it's on hiatus right now. But I find that I don't listen to podcasts. I listen to audiobooks. And my guilty pleasure is right. I'm embarrassed to say it, but I really like these RPG novels. So if you remember back in the day, when Zelda first came, so I'm 58 years old, and so I remember when Nintendo first came out, and I played Zelda and I loved it. I got immersed in the story. And then when I was in college, there was another, it was like a text-based game. It was a dungeon type game with a I can't remember the name of the game right now, but at the end you would often get killed by the Balrog. And it was so immersive and so nerdy, and all you did was move the @ symbol around. And so I really like these novels that are like game immersive, but I only listen to them either when I'm in bed, like falling asleep, or when I'm doing exercise. So it gets me motivated to go and do the things I need to do to keep myself healthy.
Wow. So, well, thank you for being truthful and honest. So it's neither of those. Okay. So we got that wrong then. Oh, all right. Third question, luxury or simplicity?
Depends on my mood. So I love staying at the Ritz-Carlton, for example.
Okay.
And I love luxury. I love the feel of the soft bed and the sheets and all that. But I can also be very frugal. And when I went to England for like 6 weeks last year. I left in September, and I came back in November, and I rented a real crappy apartment in Liverpool. And I mean, it was crappy. It was just crappy apartment. But I made the most of it. I bought, I mean, it's, these Airbnbs, they never have good equipment to cook with and stuff, but I did some cooking and stuff. So I went and bought a decent pan and things like that. And I did some cooking. So I can do both, but luxury feels better, but it's not always better. It just depends. And I think that we have the ability to create luxury in whatever circumstance we're in. So luxury for me can be cream in my coffee or making a cream sauce with my dinner. So there are lots of ways to create luxury.
That's very true. That's very true. I mean, luxury is what we create out of it. It doesn't necessarily have to be the money or the status. Yes, it is what we create out of it. Thank you so much. Tea or coffee?
So I drink coffee. Sometimes I drink tea. I don't love tea, and I will sometimes put milk in my Earl Grey, which is apparently a no-no for all y'all over there in the world of tea. But I'm a coffee drinker. Yeah.
Okay. I'm a coffee drinker too, but I drink both.
Yeah.
Right. The last question then: transformation or preservation?
A transformation every time. Easy question.
I know, because I was going through your website and I could see that you're more of a transformational, you're into transformational change.
Yeah.
So yeah. Thank you so much. So we know you better now.
Yay.
We then go straight into the question of today. Today's topic is burnout spiral effects, and it's something that we know that you've actually been through. So it's a live experience of yours that we would want you to talk us through your journey and all of that stuff.
Okay.
So I'll just do a short introduction of Dr. Michelle Gordon. She ran a multi-million-dollar surgical practice from 2005 to 2020 and actually grew it to 5 surgeons. So as she said, she has always been an entrepreneur. So it was a business for her as well as in the medical world, as medical practice. But guess what? She was overwhelmed, burnt out from, all the usual that happens with doctors and that we take for granted. All these sleepless nights, lack of sleep, night call-outs, overall lack of empathy for doctors by corporate medicine, even by us as just citizens, just normal citizens. So that affected her in a way. And to her, life as she knew it was no longer sustainable. So she did something else. During COVID hit, and then everything changed. Now, Michelle will talk us through a life journey, what's happened through COVID up till now. So Michelle, please, can you introduce yourself more than I have? I know you've got more to say.
Yeah, so I'm Dr. Michelle Gordon. I trained in general surgery. I'm board certified in general surgery. I have licenses in New York and Texas, but I'm getting licensed in 20 more states in the US because I'm moving to work on more individualized and functional medicine. And I haven't even built the website for that yet. So this is really in the very beginning stages. I'll focus on probably hormone health and weight loss primarily. And I've always been resistant to medical weight loss because I feel that weight loss is truly an inner game. So I can give you medicine or I can do surgery on you, but if you don't change who you really are, you are not going to have lasting results. But now I feel after 3 years of coaching that I'm equipped to help you actually do that as well. So when I do my weight loss practice, I'll also have coaching that will help you to create the person you need to be to maintain the weight loss. So I think that's really exciting. I'm excited to embrace medicine again.
Mhm.
I became so burned out that I didn't even think that a career in medicine was sustainable for me at all in any factor of medicine.
Right.
And it was, I grew this practice to 5 surgeons, including myself. And in November of 2019,
Okay.
the guy who I had appointed as my medical director died by suicide. And for me, that was a huge wake-up call, because not only do doctors in America have the highest suicide rate of any profession, but I realized that I wasn't happy, and I had been thinking, maybe I don't belong in the earth. I should, even though, I was making a lot of money. And I think it's really important to focus on the fact that money doesn't make you happy. What makes you happy is choosing to be happy and choosing to accept and love yourself. And these were lessons I needed to learn. So I took a break. I mean, there was no compassion from corporate medicine. And as a matter of fact, they tried to break up my practice, the hospital where I was working. They interfered with my contracts with my doctors who were employed by me. And so it was a real easy decision for me to let go, especially when COVID hit. And I'm in New York, and we were the first wave in the US. We had a hospital full of sick and dying patients, and nobody was surviving. And I did not want to bring that home to my family. So I'd go to the hospital, take care of patients, come home, strip down to my underwear, run through the house, take a shower. We had no idea what was happening. So over these past 3 years, I've had a lot of time to reflect. I've coached a number of people, hundreds of people, very valuable and rewarding work. But I also coached myself.
Right.
And I started with what kind of life I want.
Mhm.
And the life I want is, I guess, the digital nomad type life.
Okay.
But I realized I could do that with medicine, and it was COVID that allowed doctors to do a lot of telehealth. And so I'm in the beginning stages of this. And then another thing that I've looked at is, so in America, we use this drug that is primarily an anesthetic drug called ketamine.
Okay.
And when you give this drug in certain doses, it can cause a dissociation effect where you don't hear the voice in your head.
Right.
And it can allow for amazing insights into who you are, and help you maybe get out of fear or whatever. And one of my clients was telling me about the ketamine treatments she was having, and it made me think, how can I help people? I'm a doctor, I'm licensed, I've got a DEA number, I can prescribe. And so that's something else I'm looking into, and I'm actually going to get some training in how to use it. And so I'm actually really excited about this actual possibility that it's like a brand new, like I've turned 180 degrees and like, oh, look, there's a whole new world. And I didn't even see it because I was so burned out. And that's what burnout can do. It just takes the color out of the world.
Oh my God. I'm so sorry to hear about your medical director, though, even though it was a few years ago, but it's so sad what happened.
It's hard.
Yeah, it's really hard. And that's made you rethink what you want to do. But then I'm happy because now you've really found what you really want to do. You found yourself.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I've reinvented myself so many times in my life. I mean, I entered medical school at age 31. And so I'd already had kind of a career, and I was going through a divorce, and I thought, well, let me try this, and it's turned out to be, it was really great. I mean, I made a lot of money. I had a really good time until I didn't. And that's life.
That's life. That's true. That's life. That's life. You mentioned that you do coaching.
I do.
So for those that might want to reach you, how can they reach you?
They can send me an email, drg@drmichellegordon.com, or they can follow me on Twitter. I'm on Twitter every day. I put an essay out. I'm also on LinkedIn, but I'm much more active on Twitter now because I find it to be really very, there's a lot of feedback. So you know what hits on Twitter. It's really a very active sort of platform. I'm also on Instagram. I mean, but send me an email. You want to talk to me? I'm on,
Yeah.
I read all my own email. I answer my email, and I've got some coaching programs that you can apply to, and we can work together.
Great. I would also put all those details in the show notes anyway and description, so they will be able to reach easily.
Sure.
Thank you so much for sharing. So, what are the common effects or the common signs and symptoms of being burnt out?
So I think the first thing that happens is there's lack of empathy, there's lack of joy, there's a loss of, I mean, you just stop caring about your work and snapping at the people that you are supposed to love, and just a general disinterest in life, and then a lack of self-care. And what happens is there's just like boundaries get eroded.
Right.
And the way to take yourself back from burnout is, number one, to choose yourself first. And find out, what is it about my life that I don't love? And then start to take action to love it more. And if that means that you've got to say no to your boss, or maybe you've got to change careers or change jobs. I mean, look at me. I mean, I just left. I mean, and I'm going to say that I come from a very privileged place because I had saved a lot of money and I haven't really worked. I mean, I've done some online marketing and stuff, but it hasn't paid the bills. And so I saved enough money to not work for 3 years. And I'm very grateful for that. And if I needed to not work for another 3 years, I could probably manage. But I finally figured out what kind of meaningful work I want to do. And I know that it'll work. I mean, so I feel really confident about that.
Wow.
So I understand that not everyone has the ability to just quit their job. And I don't recommend that. If you want to start a high side hustle, start a high side hustle by getting up an hour earlier every morning and working on your side hustle. Build yourself an audience, and then give people, help people get what they want. And the best way to do that is just to be unapologetically you, because there's only one you in the world. And you're the only one who can be you. And it takes a long time for us to understand that. We try everybody else's way, and actually the way to do it is the way you do it. And you're going to attract people who love you, who like how you speak, who like your ideas and love your face. And you're also going to attract the haters, and that's okay. Because when you get the haters, that means you're starting to do polarizing content that makes people pissed off. So to get back to the burnout question, decide exactly what you want your life to look like and start saying no to everything else. And it might be micro decisions at first, but maybe it's saying no to the extra work that your boss is trying to give you without extra pay. That's one thing. Another thing is to actually take care of yourself, because it's really hard to take care of other people if you have a family or whatever without taking care of yourself. And for what I always find, what happens to me when I allow depression to kick in, or depression just takes over because it's not always a choice, is I stop exercising.
Right. Okay.
And what I've found is that exercise is the best antidepressant of all of them. And so when you can get the discipline of doing it when you don't feel like it, and just doing it anyway, even when you don't feel like it. Can I swear? Is it okay to swear?
Of course you can.
Well, I just never know. But sometimes sometimes it's raining outside and you don't want to go out, or, sometimes your body just hurts and you don't want to do anything. But when you move your body, a little bit every day, and if you're not exercising now, then I just say, get up and walk around your house, and then move yourself out to doing more things. And my example of this is I recently took on this challenge called 75 Hard because I wasn't really doing exercise. And I was pissed off at myself because I like to stay active, but I had just been in this funk and this funk and this funk, and I just couldn't get myself to do anything. So all you have to do with this exercise is follow a diet, not drink a gallon of water, read 10 pages of personal development, which are all really easy things to do. And then you have to do two 45-minute workouts a day. One of them has to be outside. Doesn't matter what the weather. So that's the hard part, right? And it truly becomes a mental challenge because at the end of the day, none of these things are hard. It's just a matter of making sure that you fit them into your day.
That's true.
So today is like day 33. Okay. And I decided that I wasn't making progress fast enough. And so I changed my diet to high protein.
Wow.
I started walking outside with weights, rucking. Okay. So when I go for a walk, I'm carrying, 24 or 36 pounds on my back while I'm walking my dogs. And then I'm lifting once a day because I know that for middle-aged people, the best way to lose weight is to lift weights. It's hard. It hurts for a while. And so it's just a matter of having that discipline. And the thing that's happened is that I have become like out of depression. Now, let me go back. My son almost died in February.
Oh my God.
Now, my son was born normal. And then at 21 months, he had leukemia. And he was treated and he had 3 years of treatment. But then because he was so young and had so many problems, he's just been sick his whole life, off and on, sick. So we took him to the hospital to do something. And instead of fixing the thing, they just hurt him and he almost died. And I was really, really depressed. So I picked up a book called Choose Yourself by James Altucher. Okay. And this book, I think, saved my life because in this book, he not only talks about feeling depressed and, failure and how to manage failure, but he tells you to write down 10 ideas every day. They don't have to be good ideas. They can be shitty ideas. It doesn't make a difference, but you're practicing using your brain. And I swear that one practice took me from where I was back in January, February, when my son was so sick and I felt like shit all the time, to being able to commit to this challenge of doing, this 45 days of, 75 days of 2 workouts a day and being disciplined and but not just that, but also just looking for a job in medicine, thinking that I could maybe go back to medicine, which I had never. So it took me, so I highly recommend this book, Choose Yourself by James Altucher. And he has in this book, he just says, he's got a daily practice from A to Z. To win the day, you only have to do one of them. And sometimes, like, one of the things is take a shower. Like, okay. So it's easy. And when you start to, the thing about self-efficacy, so the thing about believing in yourself, is that when you don't believe in yourself, you tell yourself, oh, this today, you wake up in the morning, today I'm going to exercise, and you just don't fucking feel like it. Okay. So the day goes on, the day goes on, you don't do it. And so then you lose your belief in yourself because it's easiest for us to lie to ourselves more than anybody else. We lie to ourselves.
Right.
This today, and then you don't. And so what has happened for me is that now when I tell myself I'm going to do something, I actually do it, and I do it every single day. And so what has happened is I've started to increase my self-belief. And as I've increased my self-belief, I've been like, oh, I'm a doctor. I can take my doctoring and use it to make money and help people. And I don't have to worry about marketing because I can pay a company to do that for me. And so all these things have come into place for me. And it's all happened in the way it was supposed to. I totally believe that the universe will give you what you need when you need it. All these things, I'm a little bit woo, but at the same time, I mean, maybe everybody else saw it and I didn't, and it doesn't matter because here I am doing what I need to do. So that's a little bit of my story.
Thank you so much for sharing. And I'm really sorry about your son. I hope he's better now, though.
Well, he's not dead. And I mean, he's back to where he was. We still have a problem that we need to fix, but I mean, he's got to get back to normal baseline before we even think about it. Yeah.
Oh, I hope he gets better soon.
Yeah, he's okay.
I'm sure you're a doctor anyway, so I know you give him the best.
I do my best.
Yeah.
It was really hard to see him sick. Yeah, it was hard.
Oh.
Yeah.
So, what then? I mean, how does it impact our physical and mental health? Now, you've actually touched on it already.
Yes.
Burnout. Yeah. You've already touched on it, but I know it does impact our physical and mental health a lot.
Well, because you stop taking care of yourself. So what happens when you're in burnout, the world turns gray and nothing matters.
Right.
And so the way to overcome that is to set some boundaries.
Okay.
Setting boundaries can be hard, and it might mean you have to end relationships.
Yes. Okay.
And but you have to choose yourself. And so we're taught something happens as we grow up, like when we're babies and when we're toddlers, we choose ourselves all the time. Like it's me. And then we're taught in school that being selfish and thinking about yourself is not okay. And so then we have to come back full circle to understand that the best way to give to somebody else is to choose yourself. And I'm not talking in a narcissistic sense. I'm talking in what's best for me right now. What do I want? How do I want to live my life? How am I going to make the biggest impact to help the most people?
Yes.
And it might not be sitting in a shitty cubicle under fluorescent lights all day. It might be, studying birds in the Maldives. I don't know.
We have to figure that out, don't we?
Yeah. And the only way to do that is to sit down and really get clear on what it is you want. I have a personal blog on Medium, and also on TypeShare. So if you go to typeshare.co /Dr. Michelle Gordon, you can read the history of my, I can get that for you and you can put it in your notes. I'll put it in the chat. Yes. But I recently did an essay, a short essay about 7 questions to ask yourself to design your life.
Okay. Yeah.
So let me get that link for you.
All right.
Because that's actually, I mean, I'm on Medium too. Let me get my Medium link. I think I put them all on Medium. So let me do that. I'll give you my,
yeah. Or you can send that to me afterwards if you can't find it.
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat. There I'll put it in the chat.
All right.
So anyway, but you have to ask yourself questions like, what you have to get to the granular, like what is my day like? Who do I wake up with? What does the mundane look like? How, where do I shop for groceries? What does the view look like out of my window? Those are really important questions to ask yourself when you're looking to design your life. And something I've always wanted to do was I wanted to be location independent, and I couldn't because I love to travel, and I couldn't be because I was tied to a hospital. And probably, when I open my clinic, I'm going to be stuck to a clinic for a little while. But the thing about this new practice is it's scalable. I can hire people to manage the clinic for me. I don't necessarily have to do it. As long as I have systems and processes in place, people can do the work and I can create a few clinics. And so I'm super excited about this because I see the possibilities. And I can see how I can help a lot of people. And in America, especially, the healthcare system is really broken. I know that there are issues with the NIH there, or not the NIH, the NHS, but at least over there, you're going to get your care. Like you're going to get your care and they're not going to, empty your bank account. And in America, it's either, the insurance companies are really ruining it, and corporate medicine, and what's happened with corporate medicine has really been a problem. And it all comes back to the fact that insurance companies are for profit, and so they don't want to pay. So it's an ugly kind of system over here. But when you're outside the system,
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I think with NHS here, it's a privilege that we have the NHS anyway. But having said that, it's I think it's not really a win-win. I mean, in America, you might have to pay your way through, but then you get the medical care assets when you really need it. With NHS, we have to go on queue,
yeah,
wait the waiting time and all of that sometimes. So sometimes we have to go via the private routes. So we have to have private medical insurance and be able to assess the medical care that way faster if we need it, really. So I think it's not really it's not a win-win, but then we're grateful it's there anyway.
yeah. I mean, it's just that there's, yeah. I mean, you can get healthcare without having to pay. You might have to wait a long time, especially if it's an elective procedure, but you're going to get the care, and that's what your taxes pay for.
That is true.
Yeah.
Very true. Thank you so much. Thank you. So, how can employers and organizations then address and mitigate this burnt out at work? Because it might affect me as an individual, but if my employers don't know about it.
Well, I think it has to do with culture. And if your culture is toxic, that's top down. So if you're in charge of a toxic culture, you have to change yourself. And after starting and multiple businesses and stuff, I realized that it was I had to change. I was the one who was causing problems. And so I had to change my style.
Right.
With that, from an employer standpoint, I actually don't have a lot of advice because I haven't ever addressed burnout in the workplace. I can only talk about, what an individual can do. Because especially medicine in America, if you're burned out, medicine in America, the advice is do not use employee health, because that will follow you around for the rest of your life. If you're a healthcare professional burned out in America, employee health is not your friend. And that's sad, because you get stigmatized with mental health. And we already have kind of a belief here in America that if you have a mental health problem, you're weak. Same thing with weight. If you have weight, you're weak. And and it's just a culture. It's a cultural thing. And so if I had a nervous breakdown, let's say, and I needed to leave my role, that would follow me around forever in all of my credentialing, so that I would have to explain every single time.
Wow. Yeah.
So they penalize you for asking for help.
Wow.
That's America. American propaganda.
So sad. It's so sad.
Yeah.
That's so sad. That's so sad. What are the risk factors then that actually contribute to this?
Overwork, overwhelm, not taking any breaks.
Right.
I mean, I think it's really important to have a work ethic, right? And we complain, the older generation complains the younger generation doesn't have a work ethic. And I think that's like a timeless kind of complaint. When I was a boy, I had to walk uphill both ways to school. In the snow, barefoot. So I think that there's a work ethic. I mean, Think and Grow Rich talks about the habit of doing more than you're paid for. And I think you can take that too far because oftentimes you're not appreciated. So one of the big problems at work is not being appreciated for the work that you provide. And that was my big issue. You know, I had this practice that had all these surgeons that provided a big service to the hospitals, and yet we were not appreciated. And so it was difficult. And then on top of that, you know, they actively tried to close me down. Not in so many words, but they were hostile. So it's okay. I mean, whatever it was. But I think so I think that those are some of the contributing factors is, you know, if you're not doing meaningful work, if you're not feeling like you're fulfilling a purpose, then it's really hard to do that work.
Yeah.
And you know, I think about that movie Nomadland. I don't know if you saw it, but Frances McDormand just plays this woman who lives in her van, and you know, she works at Amazon, and it's really, she just does it to make a living because she likes being a nomad.
Yeah.
She does it just to, you know, get around, you know, and it's an interesting life. It looks like, I mean, I love that movie, and it made me think, you know, I wouldn't mind living like that. Of course, I'd have more luxury, but I wouldn't mind living like that, at least for a while, you know, with an option. I mean, I'm not going to sell my house, but it'd be nice to be able to, you know,
Just be you.
just drive around. And I mean, there are parts of America. So last year, because I didn't have to be anywhere, I said, I'm going to skip winter. So this 2021. I'm going to skip 2021's winter. And I went to stay with my cousin in California. I called her up. I said, hey, listen, I told her, I don't know, months before, I said, can I come stay for a few weeks and just skip the summer? I mean, skip the winter in New York. So I drove my car across the country, and I got to see parts of the country I'd never seen before, at things that I like, the birthplace of Abraham Lincoln. Just really interesting kinds of, it was fun. I did it by myself. I stopped and saw people that I knew, and it was nice. And on the way back, I did a northern route. So on the way out, I did a southern route because it was winter. And on the way back, I did more of a northern route, and I ended up in southern Utah.
Right.
So in Arizona, we have the Grand Canyon, which is absolutely gorgeous, but it looks the same after a while. In southern Utah, we have the Zion National Park, which is absolutely gorgeous. And we have canyonlands, we have arches. And so I stayed 2 nights there, and I stayed by Zion, but I was so tired because I'd stayed up all night the night before filming the Milky Way in Joshua Tree in California that I was too tired to go into Zion. But I did go to Arches, and I spent a day in Arches, and it's beautiful. Southern Utah is one of the most gorgeous parts of the country. And the middle of the country is not so fun. I went up to Wyoming to look at Devil's Tower. So if you've seen Close Encounters of the Third Kind, which is an old movie from the 80s, he keeps seeing this image, and it was this thing, Devil's Tower, but it's like this mountain that has a flat top that rises right out of the ground, and it's beautiful, but it's very windy there in April. You know, we have that song Oklahoma, where the wind comes sweeping down the plain. All the plain states are super windy, and so that was kind of fun. But I got to see things I'd never seen before, and it made me want to maybe do some of that.
Wow!
Feel like there's meaning in my life.
My goodness. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. So how can we, what strategies are there to prevent this from happening, if there are any?
To prevent burnout?
Yeah.
I think it starts with choosing to be happy. Now, happiness is a choice, and it comes from, there's multiple factors that go into it. Starts with, what do I have to do to be happy? It starts with choosing yourself and the things that you want in your life. And it also starts with really getting down to the nitty-gritty of what you want your life to look like. Because once you know what that is, you can start taking steps to get it toward you. If you think about quantum physics and you think about the electron double slit experiment, which proved that electrons exist both in a kind of a cloud or a wave and then as a particle. But the only time they exist as a particle is when they're actually observed. And this comes down to when you start to apply this to our lives, there's multiple possibilities out there, but they're not going to come true unless you observe them.
It's true.
And the way to observe them is to get very, very clear on what it is you want and the feeling that it is that you want to feel. And then to actually visualize that with feeling. If you don't have feeling, it's not going to work. But you'll be able to collapse that reality into the present when you feel it. And I know that sounds really woo, but if you read this book by Neville Goddard, who was a big, he was kind of a big metaphysical guy in the US in the 70s.
Yeah.
60s. And he wrote a book called Feeling is the Secret. And he believed that God was the human imagination. And it's not a bad thought. Because once you, everything in the world, everything that's ever been created, including this iPhone right here, it started with a thought and then action behind it. So I like to use this example. If you want to lose 100 pounds, okay, you're not going to do that by wishing. You're going to get down to the nitty gritty of what it feels like to be the person who does the work to lose 100 pounds. Somebody who loses 100 pounds isn't going to eat potato chips and McDonald's every day. What they're going to do is they're going to eat a lot of protein, like lots of protein, and be so tired of eating meat. Probably going to look for supplements. They're going to lift weights. They're going to drink a gallon of water every day. And these are the things that they do. And you have to adopt these habits that successful people adopt. And then you have to visualize it and feel it. And what does it feel like to be that healthy?
That's true. That's very true. Thank you so much. Thank you. That is very true. Very true. Everything comes with a thought. Everything we want to do.
Yeah, no. And
whether good or bad.
So a goal without an action plan is a wish. Right? It's just a wish. And wishes don't come true unless you take action on them. And the best way to take action is to know what the feeling is when you get there, and to remember that it's not the actual thing that's going to make you happy. So I worked for 15 years to learn how to be a surgeon, from undergraduate to graduate school to residency. And I mean, that's a lot of delayed gratification. I sat in my office with my $300,000 salary. And I was like, is this all there is? What's next? Because I had nothing to work toward. And I didn't understand that I had missed. I was so focused on the goal that I had missed the journey. And the trick is to be happy now while working towards your goals, which is why it's easy for me to wear 36 pounds and walk my dogs where it wasn't before.
Wow. Well, that's a big turnaround, though, if you think about it.
It is. It's a huge turnaround.
Thank you for sharing.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on our show. But before you go, we need an inspiration and advice from yourself. You've actually given us a lot of tips, but we need that inspiration advice.
Inspiration and advice. So I think the best advice I can give you is to train your mind to be calm in distressing situations. And the way to do that is to practice mindfulness. And the way you learn how to practice mindfulness is to sit and watch your breath and let your thoughts go by. Probably the best app to train you how to do this is the Headspace app, and it's free. Just the first part of it. I mean, there's also a subscription part of it, but the initial, this is how I learned it, was through that app, and I loved it because Andy Petitcombe teaches you from soup to nuts how to train your mind. And the whole idea is it's Meditation, yeah, it's something that comes from the East, primarily from India. But for the Western mind, it's basically a workout.
Right.
Train your mind, and you start to understand that emotions are there just as guideposts, that you don't have to act on every single one of them, that they come and they go, thoughts come and go, you are not your thoughts. These are big, important things that can allow you to go to really, really high heights. This is how you become a high performer and ultra successful, is to not identify with the I call her the bitch inside my head who tells me I suck. And just, feel the feelings, but do it anyway.
Wow.
That's inspiration and advice. I don't know.
Yes, it is. It is. I mean, mindfulness. I don't know if I practice it, but once in a while I'll just sit down and just breathe. Just, just breathe,
Yeah.
just breathe, just breathe. But yeah.
I mean, you can start just by counting 50 breaths, or count to 10, in breath 1, out breath 2. And then if you lose count, go back to 1, and set a timer for 5 minutes. Start with 5 minutes. Start with 1 minute if you can. But when you can train your mind to let go of all the thoughts and all the things, you're not going to not think. Your mind's job is to think. The main thing is to where you're going to put your focus.
That's the thing.
And if you're ADD like me, you just learn how to put your focus maybe in front, like right here, just outside, or maybe just on your mouth, or in the third eye, whichever. But when you can just sit and just put your focus there. And there's lots of ways to meditate. You can go for a walk and meditate,
Exactly.
as long as you're present and you're listening and you're smelling and you're, and you're not like going to, all the problems in your mind. This is very helpful also for sleep. A lot of women in midlife, as the hormones start to change, get sleep disturbance. And one way to tackle that, especially when you wake up in the middle of the night, your mind is racing, is to practice a breathing technique where what you do is you close your mouth, you relax the back of your tongue, which is really weird. And then you just breathe in and out and in and out and let the thoughts go. And that I find to be very, very helpful.
Wow. I've got some things to do now, some assignments for myself.
Discipline is the key.
Yes.
It's really funny. I used to think that I needed a life that was free of a regimen, and I find that the more I have things that are non-negotiables, the easier my life is. Like this exercise thing and the way I choose to eat. I mean, I'm not like stuck to a task. I have like, like I'm working toward building this practice. I'm doing the things I need to do. But at the same time, there are some rigid things that are disciplined things that I have to do, or else, I won't be able to achieve especially my physical goals right now. I always gain weight when I'm depressed. Got to drop the weight.
You've got to drop the weight.
Yeah. So I'm doing the things I need to do.
I've got to drop the weight too. I don't think I want to carry weights. They're too heavy.
You don't have to carry weights. You can do it any way you want. You go for a walk a couple times a day. I mean, when I first started this, I didn't really change my diet. I said, I'm going to pick the easiest diet I possibly can that allows me to eat bread.
Yeah. Okay.
So I picked a whole foods diet, and I just cooked all my own food. But now I'm like, okay, I'm lifting and I want to eat bread. I want to eat better. So I'm eating like a couple of 100 grams of protein a day, and I'm really paying attention to what I'm eating. High protein, high vegetable.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Wow.
It really comes down to discipline. At the end of the day,
I know.
It comes down to discipline.
Yeah.
And if you want to make a change in your life, it really comes down to discipline. Are you going to be disciplined and do the things you need to do?
And do the things that we set out to do, our goals. Exactly. That is so true. Thank you so much for sharing. And this has come to an end. We don't want it to. I think we're really enjoying all the tips, all the advice, and all the new things you're saying that we are learning along the way.
Yeah.
Well, for me, I've learned a lot from just listening to your story, your journey, how it's impacted you, and how you've come out of it positively as well. And now you're doing great things. Are you still doing your podcast then?
So the podcast is on hiatus. The last 7 episodes were a memoir series that I kind of let go of. I got through my toddler years and I got up to the terrible teens, and I just kind of gave it up for a bit because it got very personal. And so there's a lot, you can learn a lot about me from the last 7 episodes, the memoir series of my podcast. Those are the last bits. I don't think I'm going to pursue it right now until I have a better focus.
Okay. But we can still listen to the ones you've done.
All the podcasts are there. There's a whole bunch. There's like 150 episodes on menopause
specifically. That is a lot. Wow.
Yeah, you can go to launchyourlifepodcast.com. And then there's a whole bunch of episodes, like 20 episodes on high performance. And then there's 7 episodes on memoir.
Wow.
And overcoming adversity and trauma.
Thank you so much. Thank you. If we want to listen, where do we go? Apple? Which of
yeah, Apple Podcasts, Launch Your Life, or you can go to launchyourlifepodcast.com.
Oh, okay.
Listed there.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. All right then. I'll get all that from you anyway, so I can put that in the show notes for people that would want to listen to them.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
And from me, it's goodbye. Thank you so much, Dr. Gordon, for coming on our show today.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us today on Mission to Inspire. Subscribe if you have not already done so. Like, comment, leave a message. Let's stay connected. Let's jointly inspire the world.